it's highly critical early on that you get this stage right, because it will set you up so well when you go into your later years at university, and then when you end up eventually doing clerkships and when you land a graduate. So for those that don't know or are new to this channel, my name is Ricky, and over my time at university I had done multiple clerkships. I had gained over 3 years of law firm experience, and now I'm working in one of the biggest corporate law firms in the country as a law graduate. Now I want to touch into the first piece of advice that I would give to law students who are still early on in their degree. And the first thing you need to do is to build consistent systems rather than trying to cram everything in the last minute. Now you've probably heard that saying, diamonds are built under pressure, and from an early age and from early on in my degree, I used to think in that way too. I would think that if I left everything to the last minute, then my levels of focus and concentration would be truly sky high. I'd be able to focus well and I'd be able to produce a good level of work. But obviously when you're working in a law degree and then when you work in the industry itself, diamonds are certainly not created under pressure. It takes having a consistent routine and having a consistent system in place to ensure that you have the strong solid foundations when you're working through your assignments, your exams, when you have to manage your lecture notes, your tutorial notes, when you're doing questions. It's highly critical early on that you get this stage right, because it will set you up so well when you go into your later years at university, and then when you end up eventually doing clerkships and when you land a graduate role. So my recommendation is that you want to have consistent note-taking periods during the lecture time. So if you prefer to handwrite your notes, that's totally fine. If you've got a laptop or an iPad or whatever system works for you to type up or handwrite your notes, make sure that you kind of follow that routine and system that works for you in terms of note taking. And I would focus on writing the lecture notes down. If you like going to the lectures live and taking down the notes, that's totally fine. For me personally, I would just go into the lectures and not actually take the notes, and I would listen very carefully what's going on. I would have a notebook in hand. I would sort of write down important points or important cases that the lecturer would tell us to have a look at, and then I would re-watch the lecture online at my own pace, so I could take down the relevant notes, rather than if I go to the lecture, they're going through that PowerPoint, the PowerPoint is already there, or the presentation is already readily available to us. So it would be a disservice and a bit of a waste of time if I rocked up to the lecture just taking down the PowerPoint notes when I could have easily done it at home. I might have picked up something valuable and something important, so I'm more focused on noting those things down. So my recommendation is, throughout the teaching period, have a consistent note-taking system. Now remember, in law school, you're not actually memorizing anything. The whole purpose in terms of your legal memos and your exams is to try and show to the unit coordinator, the lecturer, your tutor, that you understand how to apply the law properly. I think one of the biggest things that I guess the schooling system and the education system was always trying to hammer at us is, when a teacher teaches us a subject, we're expected to memorize it and go into an exam without any resources and try and memorize everything, and then you do your exam. And I've actually noticed, and I'm pretty sure most of you can relate to this, that every time you do an exam, you always just forget everything as soon as you finish the exam. Like, all the knowledge or all the things that you memorize just go out the window. And I actually think that's not as good of approach when you go into legal practice, because remember, in legal practice, if a client gives us advice, we're not necessarily just gonna not use any resources. We're gonna make sure we check all the text, the cases, the legal research, previous matters that we may have worked on. You're using as many resources as possible to ensure that you're able to apply the law properly. So if you're a law student early on, then I highly recommend to actually get the textbook or understand how to use legal research tools early, like Westlaw or Lexis Advance, because that way you kind of, again, you're setting up systems in place that'll help you find the laws and find the research in a more efficient way. And that means you can focus more on understanding how to apply the law and using the IRAC structure that they would have probably taught you in your tutorials. And yes, you want to spend the majority of your revision doing a lot of practice questions that the tutor gives you, a lot of the questions that are coming up in the weekly lectures. If you get practice exams, practice those. You can even start using AI as well to kind of change up the scenario, so you're kind of consistently practicing the same structured questions, and instead of focusing on memorizing the law, you're just getting better and better at applying the law, which is ultimately what will get you the best marks at uni. So don't spend too much time kind of reading through your notes over and over again, or highlighting notes or annotating. Just make sure that you have a consistent note-taking system throughout the lecture period, and then when you go into your exam mode, you're focusing solely on the revision. So I'd just like to say, if you are watching this, before I get into the second piece of advice, that I would love for you to join our online community. It's a revolutionary space that's never been done for law students, and we're bringing in a group of absolute killers to write better legal memos, understanding how to optimize and maximize performance for exams. And I also personally help with your health and fitness routines, so building a structured gym template or diet program suited for your university studies, whether you're part-time, full-time, you might be working part-time or full-time. So you get access to all of that in our online community. That will just be the top link in our description. Now, speaking of health and fitness, taking care of your health is also one of the second pieces of advice that I would give to law students earlier. Remember, your health will ultimately allow you to perform better. It's as simple as that. You want to make sure that you're getting 8 hours of sleep regardless. When I was a law student, I don't think I rarely or ever had real late nights, especially towards the end. I really prioritized my sleep, because having a good night's sleep, having 8 hours of sleep, really allowed me to wake up the next day feeling fresh, and allowed me to get really, really good quality of work done. If you're someone that sleeps at, say, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., even past that, and you sleep at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., and then you wake up at 7 or 8, or you're someone that doesn't sleep at the same time, you might sleep at 1 a.m. one night, then you might sleep at 10 p.m. another night, and your sleep schedule is just really, really whack, then it's really going to hinder and impact your performance when you go into your lectures, when you're trying to take notes, when you're preparing for exams. So one of the biggest things when it comes to taking care of your health is to focus on getting a good night's 8 hours of sleep. You sleep relatively early, you go to sleep at the same time, and you wake up relatively at the same time every morning. And again, another thing is your diet as well. So when I was in my first year of uni, I was so overweight, I was so fat. I would just eat fast food, processed foods every day, and I would complain, I'm not able to focus, or I get distracted so easily. And looking back now, it was definitely my diet. And if you're someone that, has a lot of Uber Eats, or you study late at night and you're too lazy, or you don't have time to cook, and you end up getting Uber Eats and it's something, really processed, I would just recommend just try and cut that out. And if you can, look into eating and focusing on eating more whole foods, so lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, good natural sources of protein like red meat, eggs, fish. And if you can keep that consistent diet and understand putting whole foods in your body will, essentially help make you focus more clearer, remove the brain fog and the afternoon crashes. Trust me, the level of quality of work that you'll be doing in your assignments and your level of focus you'll be able to focus for longer periods. Trust me, it will work an absolute dime when it comes to the critical stages of your assessment period. So taking care of your health, making sure you're getting enough sleep, you're also drinking enough water. I would recommend 3 liters of water a day. Have a big bottle of water next to you that you're drinking on, and making sure that you're eating a clean diet. So within our community, these are our non-negotiables for everyone in our community, that we should be getting 8 hours of sleep, we should be eating a clean whole foods diet, and we should be drinking 3 to 4 liters of water each day. And now finally, I just want to get into the last piece of advice, is just to think about life outside of uni. Think about why you're doing law. Are you doing law to become a lawyer? I'm sure that if you are watching this video, you're someone that is studying law to become a lawyer in the future. And one of the parts of being a lawyer, yes, university is a big part, your law degree is a big part, but it also comes down to your connections, your networks, who you know, your circle. And you want to be able to develop that early as a law student. And I wish I kind of jumped the ball early. A good idea and a good start is just to get a LinkedIn account and just seeing the people that work in your profession. Maybe you understand what law firms are currently there at the moment. You might know what are the big law firms, and you might be interested to see who works in those law firms, who are the partners, who are the senior lawyers. And LinkedIn is definitely a very, very good start if you want to get early into networking. Then if you really want to take that next step, you can even message them and reach out to them and say that, hey, I saw your profile, I'm currently a law student, and maybe you might have some specific questions to them. And who knows, maybe they might meet you up in person, they might respond to your texts, and then there you go, you've just built a network just through LinkedIn. Another really, really good thing that you can do outside of just uni is try and find people, other students or like-minded students like you that do other things, like play touch, rugby league. They might play some social sport, they might be a part of some social activities. I found now as a law graduate that a lot of us don't necessarily talk about, legal jargon or technical legal stuff or just law related stuff internally and externally. It's a lot of just, oh, did you see the cricket on the weekend? Did you see the sport on the weekend? Or did you see this or that? And a lot of our communication is trying to find something that both of us are sort of uniquely interested in or mutually interested in. And those are really where you can start building the relationships. So as a law student, really sort of understand that you want to be part of different hobbies, different social groups, and that way you'll just meet a bunch of new people. It'll open up your networking and connections. For me, I didn't really understand it early on. It was only until I started working in a law firm early on where I really got to start to meet different people, got to see what their interests were like. And within that firm, I was doing some social running, some run clubs together. We'd play some social sport like volleyball together. There'd be all these weekly and monthly social events. And that was sort of my way of sort of networking and meeting new people outside of university within the legal profession. And ultimately, towards the end of my degree, that allowed me to help me get into clerkships and ultimately land me in a job as a law graduate. So one of the other things you can do too is make sure that you're updating your resume every 6 months, so ideally at the end of every semester. It's always good to just keep up on those things, your resume, maybe practice a cover letter. Within our Fortis Circle community as well, we do have effective templates and feedback on how to write effective resumes and cover letters, and I will also personally review your cover letters and resumes as well inside our community. So something to keep in mind of, and that link is in the top link in the description. So those are 3 pieces of advice that I would give to you if you're currently early in your legal career as a law student, and those are some things that I wish I personally knew going into my law degree and further on. So if you enjoyed this video, appreciate it if you give it a like. Go and join our Fortis Circle community if you want to be part of a community of absolute killers. I really love what I'm creating at the moment, and I really want to inspire the next generation of lawyers. So if you're someone that wants to level up, I would really love to see you inside the Fortis Circle community. We'll see you in the next video.